Oh boy, can't find Joseph today. We're supposed to film the intro for the MIMIGHOUL 10-minute testing. All I see is this suspicious looking footrest.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hey. I thought you were in the footrest.
What? No, why would I be in the footrest? Ah! The me on the bed was a decoy! Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts! I'm MBT, and this is 10-minute testing. How many times must we find ourselves in this exact same position? There's a new TCG archetype. It's got a lot of potential in its first wave, but it can only be saved by a powerful second series of cards. Do you really want to watch me roll this boulder up the hill again? Presenting MIMIGHOUL.
And I played this. I forgot to put the trap in my deck.
Oh my god.
So this was kind of just here.
So here's the list, courtesy of Todd Tolbart. Though I did mess with it a little bit, he forgot to put in a bunny target. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Wow, new ad PogChamp. As you all know by now, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is the best place online to get detailed tournament results, in-depth strategy articles, and host decks. It's where I upload all the decks I play on 10-minute testing, it's the pack simulator responsible for progression, it's the arena drafter responsible for arena. But today I'm here to shill something else. They recently interviewed me as part of a new series of content creator and their favorite deck articles. There's a link to it in the description, I hope you'll check it out, and the site proper as well. Now back to the video. With that, let's mess with MIMIGHOUL. Lore-wise, MIMIGHOUL is a dungeon full of treasure. Or so it would seem. One only has to attempt to open a chest to learn it's actually the home of a half-dozen mimics. Controlled by the ruthless Toon Eldritch, MIMIGHOUL Master, these cards all like being donated to an opponent, flipped down, and then discovered, flipping and triggering powerful effects for their old master. It's a cute playstyle, and in a world of gimmick, puppet, and pals, I shouldn't have to tell you how powerful giving an opponent a monster can be. There's just one problem. The cards aren't good. Between the field spell, which searches Mimighouls and floodgates, and the trap, which summons Mimighouls, the cards are only as strong as the monsters they search. And at present, there's really only one monster you want, Mimighoul Dragon. The remainder of the deck reads like an apology for the fact that you have a powerful gameplay loop, but the ceiling on what it can accomplish is pretty low. Regardless, thanks to a general lack of understanding about how the cards work, we can probably finagle some wins out of this silly stun archetype. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up is MIMIGHOUL Master. We're playing 2. God, I would love to be playing 1. Can't be destroyed by battle or card effects while your opponent controls any face-down monsters, or you control a MIMIGHOUL that's not himself, and you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If it's normal or special, you could add a MIMIGHOUL monster from your deck to your hand, except for the Master. During your opponent's main phase, you can change a face-down monster on the field to face-up attack or defense position. The point of this card is you'll be able to trigger your MIMIGHOULs on your opponent's turn, something you are expecting them to already do to get out of the lock on the field spell. Let's go there next. MIMIGHOUL Dungeon. MIMIGHOUL monsters you control that were not normally special summoned this turn gain attack equal to their original defense, and any player who controls a face-down monster cannot normal summon monsters, nor declare an attack with monsters that were special summoned this turn. That's right, to get access to your normal, you're gonna have to flip up that monster I gave you. During your main phase, you can add a MIMIGHOUL monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, and of course that is a once per turn. Usually you'll be getting MIMIGHOUL Dragon, which flip if it is the main phase, applies these effects, destroys all face-up monsters you control except your MIMIGHOULs, or gives control of this card to your opponent, and then during the main phase you can special summon this card from your hand to your opponent's field in face-down defense position, and on normal or special summon, you can add a MIMIGHOUL spell trap from your deck to your hand. Usually, what you're gonna want to do is get this card on your field in order to grab a MIMIGHOUL spell and trap, and then give your opponent a powerful MIMIGHOUL monster that will trigger great effects for you. The number one culprit of this effect is, of course, MIMIGHOUL Archfiend. If it's the main phase, your opponent, which will be you in this situation, draws a card, and then you, which will be your opponent in this situation, sends a card from your hand to the graveyard before giving you this card back. During your main phase, this can be special from your hand to your opponent's field in face-down defense position, and if normally special summoned, you can change a face-down monster on the field to face-up attack or defense position. This is the gameplay loop. You're going to force your opponent to do Archfiend so you can go Mad Plus, at which point you can modulate if it's on face-up attack position, face-down defense position, whose side of the field it's on, etc. We finally got one copy of MIMIGHOUL Cerberus. I personally would not advocate for playing this card because I think it's doo-doo bad, but I will admit there are very few names and you'll run out really quickly. If it's the main phase, apply these effects in sequence. Banish the top 3 cards of your deck, special banish monster to your opponent's field in the defense position and give it to your opponent. Then during your main phase, you can special summon this card from your hand to your opponent's field in face down defense, and your opponent cannot target face-up spells you control with card effects. Now, The cash tier monsters are right at home in this archetype, not only to give it something to do, but also to give it the ability to go second, which it otherwise absolutely cannot do under any circumstances. 2 Unicorn, 2 Fenrir, and of course you can see later on we've got the Birth as well. We're playing 3 copies of MIMIGHOUL Dungeon. MIMIGHOUL monsters, of course, are bolstered by this card, but it's also so central to all of your plays that you are playing as many copies as possible. Here we are on the 4th, given the terraforming. Next, we've got 2 copies of MIMIGHOUL Maker, another card that is kind of mid. Reveal 2 flip monsters with different names from your deck. Your opponent randomly picks one for you to special summon to their field in face down defense position, and you add the other to your hand. Then you can special summon a MIMIGHOUL from your hand, and if your opponent special summons a monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard to target a face down monster your opponent controls, change it to face up attack or defense position. Listen, this card is fine, but it is also really mid in the grand scheme of powerful cards for niche archetypes. The fact that there's a 50-50 involved in a card for an archetype this bad is criminal. After that, of course, we've got the Pot of Prosperities, and we've got the Triple Tactics Thrust alongside the aforementioned Birth. Last card I really want to talk about is MIMIGHOUL Room. This specials a MIMIGHOUL from your hand or deck to your field or in face-down defense position to your opponent's field. Think of it like Welcome Labyrinth. Then you can change a face-up monster on the field to face-down defense position. Think of it like Big Welcome Labyrinth. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target any number of MIMIGHOULs you can control and return them to the hand, which is great because there are so few of them. You're going to want to get multiple activations off of cards like Dragon. After that, we're playing our Hat Rabbit target, and then let's say 3 Nibiru, 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, 3 Shifter. It's one of those decks. 2 Triple Tactics Talents. Important to mention with this card, if you can finagle a situation in which you trigger the effect of an opponent's MIMIGHOUL monster you've given to them on their turn, you can fire this turn 1, which is great. 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, and 1, there can be only 1 in the extra. We've got the usual suspects alongside an Embodiment of Crime. We're just on a lot of 1s. I don't know what to tell you. We've got a bunch of links that I doubt we'll ever make, but we're also playing Silhouette Rabbit, which is kind of central to this strategy because otherwise you don't really have too much to do with multiple monsters on your side of the field. In the side deck, we've got Bestial's Druis Worm, Magnamut, and Baldrake. We've got Raigeki, Harpy's Feather Duster, a couple of Dark Rulers, a couple of Cosmics, a couple of Dimensional Fissures, and triple evenly matched. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Runic Fur Hire, and boy oh boy does this hand look, well, good if the terraforming resolves. Thankfully it does. We're going to begin with a copy of the MIMIGHOUL Dungeon. We'll activate the effect, and that's going to grab from deck to hand, unsurprisingly, MIMIGHOUL Dragon. We'll activate the effect of the Dragon, and that's going to grab us a copy of Maker, and time to roll a 50-50. We'll reveal 2 cards, a Cerberus and a Goblino. The Archfiend does make it to our side of the field, so we'll activate the effect, flipping up the Cerberus and banishing 3 from our opponent's deck, taking a beat here. Because our opponent has activated an effect, we can fire off the TTT and get perfect knowledge of their hand. From here, we can go into IP Masquerena, into Ensemble Rabina, and what a draw off the top. Evenly matched will make quick work of our board, and then in main phase 2, they're going to begin with a copy of Dampa. We'll set that sucker face down. We know they have, of course, the negation in their hand, so we have to do it now. We'll go Dragon Effect in order to grab the dungeon, and they will pass turn. Let's see what we can accomplish from here. That's a nice one. We can clear our field with the Graveyard Effect of the MIMIGHOUL Room before special summoning out the Kashtira Unicorn. We're going to grab the Birth from deck. Then we'll fire off the dungeon, activate the Dungeon Effect in order to grab from our banish to our hand this copy of Archfiend. Next, we're going to go for the Dragon Effect and go into a Silhouette Rabbit. This is just really the setup turn. We want to put our opponent in an unwinnable position. I don't think we're OTKing at present. We'll Birth back the Unicorn and go to the battle phase. Of course, as an illusion, the Silhouette Rabbit can't actually get over the monster, but the Kashtira Unicorn certainly can. We'll give our opponent an Archfiend, and then we'll set 1 card and pass it back to them. They draw for turn. That's another pretty good one. They're going to go for the Runic Fountain. We'll go for Silhouette Trick here so that we can finagle it in such a way that the negation of the Silhouette Trick will prevent the Runic Field spell from drawing. They're going to go for Freezing Curses, which is perfect fodder for MIMIGHOUL Room. Let's set that sucker face down, clogging their EMZ. We'll go for the Maker, and they will go for Rookie Fur Hire, tributing the monster I so desperately wanted to flip up, but down comes Rex. Instead, they're going to go Gigantic Sprite here to go into a copy of Sprite Blue, and then Sprite Blue, which will allow us to trigger the Unicorn. We'll get a copy of Jet. They'll trigger the effect of the Jet in order to grab a starter, and then afterwards they're going to overlay for a Mannequin Cat. Not a lot they can do with that EMZ clog. They'll go for red, and at resolution we can activate Birth and get that Rex out of the graveyard for follow-up plays on the next turn. They are now just a Sprite deck. We draw Maker, which is something. We'll go Dungeon here in order to grab back the Dragon. They will negate it with the effect of the red, freeing up the EMZ, but too little too late. We'll go Unicorn Effect to banish a card, then Maker, 50-50, 50-50, 50-50. We'll give them an Archfiend, and we will grab another Dragon. We can special the Archfiend here. They'll activate the effect of the Mannequin Cat, targeting their Silhouette Rabbit for a Rafal, which is cool, but also not a big deal. We're going to go for Nightmare Unicorn, activate the effect in order to spin the Rafal, and then of course we'll go into a copy of Access Code Talker. Access Code Talker here is going to pop the entire board, sans 1 individual card, and then of course we have to out our own lock here. Let's go ahead and go for the effect of the MIMIGHOUL Dragon and activate the MIMIGHOUL Room to put the MIMIGHOUL Dungeon back in our hand, so we can go into SP Little Knight, trigger the effect of the Kashtira Birth, and get in for well over lethal. Our second match is up against Paleozoic, and Jesus, Runic and then Paleozoic. What is this, a Josh stream? You can see that we've opened 2 copies of Maker, which is just classic. Let's go for the effect of 1. We'll activate it and lose the 50-50. Enjoy your dragon. I guess we'll take a Cerberus. We're going to set 1 and pass back to our opponent. They draw for turn. This is a decent opener. They'll go for Reasoning. We call 1, and what do you know? The top card is a monster, a Soldier Dragon, into a Time-Tearing Morganite, into a Laundry Dragon Maid. They do get some hits here. They're going to go for Backjack into SP, triggering the effect of the Backjack. We'll trigger the effect of the Maker. They'll trigger the effect of the SP in order to get the Soldier Dragon off their field. We'll flip up our dragon, take it back. They'll set 2, go to end step. At end step, we'll room. They'll Morella, and we're just on plan Zeus at this point. We'll summon MIMIGHOUL Master in order to flip that Soldier Dragon face down, then activate the effect of the MIMIGHOUL Master, at which point our opponent will activate the effect of the Backjack and Graveyard and set a copy of Oleanades. Okay, whatever. Let's just overlay for a copy of Assembled Nightingale. They're going to Woboku here, no response. We'll go to the battle phase, attack in, main 2. It's time for Downard. They're going to Oleanades their last remaining back row, and we're going to overlay for a Zeus. We'll activate the effect of the Zeus. They will SP Little Knight targeting the Zeus. We will go for the effect of the Zeus in order to wipe the board regardless. Afterwards, we're going to go for MIMIGHOUL Dragon. That is going to grab us the room. We'll activate Part of Prosperity for 3 here, and I am immediately kicking myself for not picking 6. I guess we'll take Kashtira Birth. Next up is Maker. Another dragon to my opponent. 5 million dragons. We're going to go for Cerberus, I guess, into Ensemble Rabina, and we'll get the Sky Thunder back at the end of the turn. Now, we have to wrap this up quickly because you can see our opponent is drawing 2 per. They're going to go for a Soldier Dragon and set 1. We draw for turn. They will Oleanades our back row. We will chain room. They'll chain dragons, which allows them to get a Laundry Dragon Maid. From here, we will go ahead and summon a copy of Master, and we will flip that Laundry Dragon Maid face down, which will prevent its effect from triggering. They're really going to hate how this chain resolves. We'll go Rabina into Sky Thunder into Master, which basically has locked this up. We'll go Birth, and then normal summon a copy of Fenrir before going to the battle phase, walking over the 0 defense Morella, banishing this copy of Soldier Dragons, redeclaring, and our opponent's going to concede. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's playing what else but Fiendsmith Snake Eye, and this game just really exemplifies my problem with the format and draw phase. We'll activate D-Shifter. Fun. We're going to go for Pot of Prosperity here for 6. I've learned my lesson from the 3, and there's the dragon on top. Fine, I guess I'll stop learning lessons. Let's go ahead and grab that dragon. Unfortunate no field spell, but still we can make it work. We'll go Fenrir into a copy of Unicorn. Then we're going to normal summon the dragon, activate the effect, and that's going to grab us to the room. We'll set 2 and pass back to our opponent, who will draw for turn. Ooh, another card that needs the graveyard. They're going to set 1 and pass. Nice deck, by the way. We'll go room here. We're going to special summon a copy of Master. Then we'll activate the effect of the Master in order to grab a copy of Dragon to hand. We'll draw for turn, and we will activate the effect of the dragon that we've normal summoned in order to grab the dungeon. Our opponent will draw in Lockbird now that they can use the graveyard, but guess what? This is already lethal. Let's go to the battle phase and get in for 5 and 24 and the boosted 25 and the boosted 3k. Nice! Now, if you thought Shift or Pass was exciting, wait till you see what happens in game 2. For game 2, we are going second. Of course, our opponent's going to begin with one of their 3 wanted of Sinful Spoils. This hand would go crazy in Balatro. They'll follow it up with the Tractus into a Lurie. They'll activate the effect of the Lurie and then go to a Requiem effect for a Fiendsmith, and they'll activate the Requiem effect in graveyard, then send it to the graveyard for a copy of Diabellstar. Got to keep all those wanteds for something. We'll set a copy of Original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye, sending this copy of Diabellstar into an Ash effect to grab a Poplar, and they're off to the races. Poplar comes down, they'll activate the effect of the Poplar, and I guess will Nibiru here? I don't know. With no second hand trap, it really feels like they can really extend through it quite aptly. They're going to go for the effect of the Divine Temple. Then they'll bring back Fiendsmith and activate Snake Eye Diabellstar to bring back herself. They'll draw a card off of this copy of Wanted into a Moon, into a Sequentia. Sequentia here will summon back the Lacrima, and then Lacrima will summon this copy of Fiendsmith. Cool. It's just the whole line over again. They'll go Beatrice here because all of their Snake Eyes are in the back row. Maybe shouldn't have activated the Poplar effect. They'll go for the effect of the Lacrima here, then the effect of the Promethean Princess to bring back the Oak, and the Oak effect in order to summon a Flamberge. There's 2 engraved now, so it's time for Raging Phoenix into Flamberge, summon a couple of guys back into Zelantis, into IP Masquerena, into set 2. Not perfect, but still probably good enough, plus the skill drain. We're going to begin with this copy of Pot of Prosperity, finding off the top. I don't know. Maybe the Dark Ruler trades for an IP Masquerena, and we can get that out of the way. That would be nice. We will do so. It does, and we'll go MIMIGHOUL Dungeon. Dungeon here is going to grab from deck to hand a copy of MIMIGHOUL Dragon. We'll go for the Master. They'll go for the Divine Temple and Chain. Skill drain. Awesome. Okay, well, I guess we will attack over the scary monsters and leave the Poplar in the back row. We'll pass back to our opponent, who will just send that skill drain for Diabellstar. My favorite part about the Floodgates is that they're reciprocal. They're going to set a copy of OSS into Ash, activate the effect of the Ash, and into the second Poplar effect, summon itself, and then afterwards go into a copy of Selene. We don't have to sit through this. Let's just go next. So it's time for that all-important Game 3, and oh, you must be out of your mind if you thought we were going to be playing a single game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Today. Let's lead with a copy of Shifter in draw phase, and followed up with the Pot of Prosperity for 6. Let's see what we got. We need a starter. Any starter. Please, starter. Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, okay, thank God. Whew. 6th card, MIMIGHOUL Dungeon. I am never doing Pot of Prosperity for anything other than 6 ever again. We're going to go for Fenrir. Activate the effect of Fenrir in order to grab a unicorn. Then normal summon this copy of Dragon. Activate the effect of the Dragon in order to grab a room. Let's set 2 and pass turn. No need to fire the fissure just yet. We can wait on it in case they have something like an evenly matched. We'll go for room at end step. They will ash it. That's annoying, but hardly the end of the world. It's banished, which means we can't cycle this copy of Dragon, but we can still get in there. All we have to do is activate the effect of the MIMIGHOUL Dungeon. We will do that for Master. Master effect in order to grab a copy of the Archfiend and go to the battle phase, get in for 18 and 24 and 25, puts them very low, and then in main phase 2, let's seal the deal. Down comes Dimensional Fissure, we'll go Archfiend, give it to them, and pass their turn. Well, good luck to my opponent, who is now permanently locked from the graveyard. They'll flip up the Archfiend, activate the effect, pitch a copy of this Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils into Bonfire, into Snake Eye Ash, into Infinite Impermanence. Good luck, buddy. Afterwards, we're going to go into an Anima that at least gets them this copy of the MIMIGHOUL Archfiend, which they can send to our graveyard to summon Diabellstar. Okay, we're cooking just a little bit. They're going to go SP Little Knight, target our copy of Fenrir, and then pass turn, but unfortunately, this isn't going to be sufficient. We can just go battle phase. We'll get in for 900 and again for 3. Fun! So we're back with the deck, and, well, let's be honest, the MIMIGHOULs weren't the determining factor in that best of 3. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1. MIMIGHOUL Dungeon's Floodgate effect is extremely potent. A well-timed room can stop your opponent from going for lethal or completely cut them off from normal summoning. It also searches every turn for grinding. 2. The MIMIGHOULs trigger on your opponent's side of the field when they're summoned face up, which means you can force a Talents or a Thrust. And 3. God, I don't know. Oh, it can play Shifter. You know, that's a benefit. And the cons. 1. Diabellstar can send the monsters you put face down on your opponent's side of the field to the graveyard. This is like the central problem with the deck right now. They are not forced to keep their monster. There are a ton of cards in the meta that send it for cost. And one of them just happens to be popular in the best deck. You'll get none of the flip effects. They'll plus off it. It's as bad as it could possibly get. 2. MIMIGHOUL Maker being a 50-50 means that sometimes you just don't get access to Dragon. You don't get the flip, you can't trigger the MIMIGHOULs, and biggest of all, 3, it is so bad at going second. Even if you load up on the traps, the engine itself just doesn't play well when going second because of how its gameplay loop tends to work. Overall, these little mimics are kind of struggling to trap people out of the game. But say it with me. The archetype still shows a lot of potential. All it needs is a powerful second wave of support. Maybe the real trap is the one that's been laid by Konami. Hope. So that's that. These 10-minute testings are subsidized by, and occasionally suggested by, my patrons. So I'm going to rattle off the names of some of the higher tier ones right now. Thank you all so much. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. Slifer274, Elena Tincher, Alex Perea, Allison Elliott, Ali, Brett Henry, Canner, Seaweed, Darkmaster Zork, Derp and Dragon, Devin Senpai, DJ Elefante, FBS Lord Derp, Gravity, John Piet, Juan Cruz Avila Zati, Night Mary, Legal Rights, Lockstone, Luis Hernandez, Master of Faster, Matthew M. Derezzo, MBT Play Madolce, Mike Carlotti, N54 Lionheart, Nebula Yu-Gi-Oh!, Project Mercury, Rose Lapine, Troy Says By Erasure is Gay, Vincent Storm, Who's Nick, Wonder Waffle, Your Pot of Greed Does What, and Yuki.